Welcome back to the Webby and O'Neill channel. And after Manchester United's 1-1 draw with Chelsea, Roy Keane called out Bruno Fernandes' apology for Erik Ten Hag sacking as too little too late, and also questioned Bruno's leadership as captain as Manchester United. Get involved in the chat as always, Reds, because we will discuss some of your comments throughout today's video. First of all, your thoughts on Roy Keane's comments on Bruno Fernandes?
Well, once again, Roy Keane comes out, savages everything. Yeah. Savage Manchester United, and he certainly went in on Bruno Fernandes. My eyes don't lie, he says. I wouldn't be going in the trenches with Bruno Fernandes. He is a poor, poor captain and has been for a long time. Roy Keane savaged him.
Did he actually say that, though? Did he actually say that he was a poor, poor captain? I actually got the feeling of what he actually said. He wanted to come out and say things stronger than what he did. I actually think in his own mind, Roy Keane, he does not think that Bruno Fernandes should be the captain of Manchester United. I don't think he sees him as a captain and as a leader.
No, he says he's not been a good captain for a long time. He went on about last year. The only thing he didn't say, he didn't call for Bruno Fernandes to be stripped of the captaincy. So that was poor from Roy. He should have just carried it on, because a lot of fans out there, yous included out there, me, I don't think Bruno Fernandes is the captain of Manchester United. When you look at the type of captains Manchester United have had, when you need a fighter, they're on the pitch. This Bruno Fernandes does not produce it. The players around him, I don't believe they believe in Bruno Fernandes. And apologising to the manager, what's just got sacked, shows a weak mentality. It's his fault. He's the captain, he's the leader, and he's failed.
You did talk about going into the trenches. That's what Roy Keane actually said. But he didn't just pick out Bruno Fernandes. He actually said about most of the team he wouldn't like to be in the trenches with. So, really, Bruno Fernandes, the task he's got as captain to try and get these players on side, galvanise the team. It's a monumental one when you've got a captain of Roy Keane standards saying he wouldn't have liked to have been in the trenches with some of them.
Yes, but Roy's going on about his day when Manchester United were a great side. And what Roy fails to see sometimes is what this side is. This side is a poor Manchester United side. The league table does not lie. It's been poor for a while. We only have moments. Even Roy said this team only produces moments. It's a poor leadership. It's a poor team. Everything around it in the background is poor. But he knows what a United side should be. It's not there. But Roy can't let it go. He always goes on about when he was playing, he would never let his players down. Didn't matter to Roy if he hated the manager or anything. He went out there as a professional and done his job. And he sees these players, and especially Bruno Fernandes, incapable of leading Manchester United to glories.
Got a big job on his hand, Ruben Amorim. Like he mentioned, just a 2.5-year contract. He's going to need a lot longer than that to sort the mess out at this club. And I think most fans can agree with that, because I certainly do.
Well, Roy's talking about Amorim coming in, he's talking about the goals, the lack of goals, and he's got a big job. He says it himself. He's got to get some spirit back into this side. He sort of like criticised him, a sly little dig, really, Amorim. Oh, yes, he's the manager coming in. It's from the Portuguese league, not a great league, but hey, let's see what he does. So he's not really praising him, but he's telling him he's got to get this team, change it round and get some spirit back into it. Because as far as Roy's concerned, and most people out there are concerned, this team is just dead on its feet. No one can galvanise it. And if your captain can't galvanise it, then he has to be changed.
I can understand why he's not gone overboard and reserved any sort of praise for Ruben Amorim, because we've all got to wait and see what he does when he comes in and wears the suit and sits in the dugout at Manchester United. And Roy Keane knows more than anyone how hard and the task is to get Manchester United back to where most of us fans, well, all of us fans, want to be, and that's challenging from the Premier League.
Well, the way Roy was talking, everyone's got to go. There's no striker scoring goals. There's no one doing anything. There's no leadership. Everyone's got to go. That's the way Roy was yesterday. He never gave a good word about anything of Manchester United. And,
Sorry to interrupt. After watching that performance yesterday, though, what positives can you actually really come out with and say, do you know what? I enjoyed that moment, or I enjoyed this part of the game. I enjoyed his performance today.
No, you can't really say you enjoyed that performance yesterday, because it's not what we're expecting. It's Manchester United. But the reality is United are a poor side. So to go into that game yesterday, I think the only good point about it is that we got a point against the Chelsea side, what was in the top four. I mean, Chelsea really, coming to Old Trafford, should have expected to win. They will go away from Old Trafford very, very disappointed. Chelsea fans will be very, very disappointed. You've got to look at where we've come from. We're not fighting, but we're near the relegation zone. Chelsea were in the top four, and everybody was expecting Chelsea to win, and they didn't win. So they're the ones disappointed. But where is the criticism of this Chelsea side failing? Because that's what they did. They failed yesterday. They've had over £1 billion spent recently on players, £100 million players. They can't beat a very, very poor side. Roy Keane says they are a poor side, devoid of spirit, devoid of scoring, just so poor. But we knew that before the game. So to get a point, that's the only good point.
I mean, we have been beat by Chelsea, got a point against Chelsea, even when we were decent and good under Sir Alex Ferguson. And, you know, looking at it in reality of where Manchester United sit right now, getting a point on the table, you know, if we can get 3 points against Leicester next weekend before Amorim comes in, let's hope he can work some sort of Harry Potter magic. But, you know, at the moment, you've just got to concentrate on keeping and getting points on the table, and a point away at home to Chelsea. I'm not too disappointed with it. It's just going back to the performance again. I didn't really see anything different to what I've been seeing under Erik Ten Hag this season, last season. But did we really expect that, though? Did we really expect Ruud van Nistelrooy to change it all round and these players to be all of a sudden be playing as a team, working hard for each other?
Well, I'm surprised that people expected more, to be honest with you. This is a very disjointed side. Roy Keane says it. These players, they haven't got the Man United DNA. So I don't see where the expectations was of United going out yesterday to beat a Chelsea side, what are really on the up. So the expectations and the reality for some people baffles me sometimes, because I didn't expect United to go out there and play really, really good football. I didn't expect any changes. I expected players not to cross the ball. I expected players to mess it up in front of goal. We're not scoring goals. It's a disjointed side, and Amorim, when he comes in, has got a tough task, but he's not going to be able to change these players. He can only work with them and try and coach them and make them better. Roy Keane just knows that this side is terrible, and he outlined it yesterday, in my words, savagely. And I thought he was savage on Man United, but he didn't come back to the reality of where this team was and sort of say, well, United are a poor side, getting a point, it's good because Chelsea are a good side. He didn't sort of point that out. He just kept going on about the Man United DNA. These players are very, very poor. The Bruno Fernandes, poor leadership, everything else like that. He piled it on. And fair enough, Roy's right. I can't disagree with him. But at the end of the day, we got a point, and Roy didn't sort of like, well, it was a good point at the end of the day because Chelsea are a good side. That never came out. There's no criticism anywhere of Chelsea.
Yeah, I totally agree in what you're saying about Chelsea, where they are in the league, you know, all the praise that they've had recently as well for the manager and the players. And, you know, you're looking at Manchester United, got a point earlier on, and you're looking at Amorim there. Are the problems more deeper rooted than these players actually needing someone to coach them and actually set up a style that actually suits them? Is it deeper than that, and it's an attitude problem as well? Because like you said earlier on, and Roy Keane mentioned, it's like Manchester United DNA. Surely that means attitude then.
Well, listen, what Roy's not telling you, right, is in that dressing room, all them players there is proper disgruntlement towards Bruno Fernandes by quite a lot of players. They don't like his attitude. Bruno Fernandes.
I don't know. You'd have to be very careful, like, meaning that I'm not being funny, but with Bruno Fernandes there, I mean, I don't know if I heard it last night or I've heard it in recent weeks, and I do agree with the point that if you're looking at over the last 10 years at Manchester United, he seems the only player to me that we've bought and who has actually improved as a player. Yeah, recently, nothing's going right for him, but nothing's going right for the team.
I'm just saying.
He wants to put the work in, Bruno.
Right, people know out there in the media, okay, that certain people do not get on with Bruno Fernandes, and Bruno Fernandes does not like criticism. He will not accept criticism in the dressing room or outside the dressing room. That is Bruno Fernandes. There's a certain people do not get on with him, and that is the harmony in the group, and it's been poor, and we've seen it. There is a dysfunction amongst these players and has been for a long time. If a captain was doing his job and players respected him, they would fight for that shirt, the badge and everything, and we don't see it. As Roy said, some players can't run. Some players can't be bothered. That means they can't be bothered to do the work for the captain, what they do in on the training pitch. We criticise. We've heard coaches talking. They do it on the training pitch, but don't do it on the pitch. Well, they've got no respect, not just for the badge, but for the captain and the manager and everything. There is discontent right the way through, and that is with amongst players, amongst each other as well. That is a fact as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, give a generalisation though, didn't he, over players who can't run or players who don't want to run without really naming them. Obviously, he went in a bit savagely on Bruno Fernandes in what he thought was his apology to Ten Hag over him being sacked. But again, we got a point against Chelsea. You look over the weekend, Man City got beat, Arsenal got beat, Aston Villa got beat. But the media and some fans out there are going on as though we got beat against Chelsea yesterday. But there's no... and none of the media actually looking out there and savagely going in on any of them three teams I just mentioned, though. And they got beat over the weekend.
Yeah, but what they're doing is it's Manchester United, the biggest club in the world, okay? So it's headlines, right? This is a team above the relegation zone, okay? And they're going at Manchester United. They're criticising Manchester United. There's only Manchester United what can get the criticism it gets throughout the world, okay? And it's a pile-on. The situation we're in is dire. There's people inside that club need to be removed. A lot of players are not good enough. A lot of players what have been signed, what aren't good enough. We can all see it. Roy Keane can see it, and he went in on Bruno. And you can't. If the manager, it all ends up with the manager getting the sack, then surely Bruno Fernandes, as captain, has to take responsibility, and he needs to be removed, and someone fresh brought in when Amorim comes in. Will Amorim do that? When he first comes in, will he just assess it, give it time?
The thing is, though, that they were quick enough a lot of the time last season and this season to hammer Erik Ten Hag while he was still in the job. Oh, there's no style of play, we can't see an identity, all them sort of phrases, what a lot of you have been used to hearing over the last few weeks. But once he's gone, it's like, it's all these players' faults now. It's all their fault.
Yeah, but it is the
like a cycle, though. You keep hearing and seeing the same patterns constantly from the media and the pundits of what goes on here at Manchester United.
Well,
and it's like, surely Ten Hag has to accept some of the blame as well, because he spent a lot of money, right? And he's brought a lot of players in over the last couple of years. And I can't see any of them players that he's brought in, and he's actually made them better. No. When you've looked at them, the clubs that they've bought them from, they look good players, they look decent players, but they come here to United, they don't improve. And that was my point about Bruno earlier, that in the last 10 years, for me, he's the only player that's come here and you've seen an improvement on a player.
Well, listen, you might have seen an improvement on a player when he first came here, right? You cannot say that about any player over the last 18 months to 2 years what has excelled at this football club. There is a disconnect in that dressing room between the staff, between the management, the suits and everything. And there has to be big changes. Roy Keane keeps going on, and many other pundits keep going on at how bad this club is, how bad these players are. We all know that. And it will continue until we see changes. And that's a fact of life. But Roy avoided one or two things. He didn't call Bruno out and wanted him to be sacked as the captain, and there was one or two other things. He knows a lot more than what he's saying, Roy, and I think that's why he targeted Bruno Fernandes specifically, because that's what he did. And he tried to sort of match him up as if to say, when I was captain, you're in the trenches, you fight, you fight, you fight. And he's saying Bruno's not a fighter. You look at Bruno, and I think to myself, are one or two little mannerisms of his going on to other players? Because you look at Garnacho, certain times yesterday, and we've seen recently him sort of standing there, throwing his arms about. Well, you wouldn't do that if Roy Keane was there, and that's what I think he's trying to say. Roy would have jumped on that player, stamped it out, and Bruno Fernandes isn't stamping out player discontent, player waving his arms about and all that. And that's what a captain has to do. And he's failed, and he's failed in many, many ways, Bruno.
Yeah, you just like to think how Roy Keane would react if he was in this team currently as a captain. You know, you see Bruno Fernandes, and we've questioned it quite a lot on certain games where Bruno Fernandes seems to be all over the pitch at right back, every other position that he's not meant to be. But surely that then shows a player that actually cares, because he's seen other people in that team on that day failing in what they're meant to be doing as a job, and he's being that team player, that captain, to try and fix it himself around the pitch. Whereas for me, Bruno Fernandes needs to be back up that pitch near enough side on side with the centre forward, and that's where he's best at. But we're not currently getting that because a lot of players are failing.
Right, you've got to sort of say to yourself, standards, not the standards. That's not a Manchester United captain. He's not pulling people. All he's doing is moaning. That's all you get. He's not pulling players, helping them, geeing him up and working alongside them. He's criticising, he's shouting at players, okay? He's rolling about, he's waving his arms. That's not the standards of a captain. And Roy Keane's pointing that out, that he's not good enough to take these players, and he's not working hard enough as a captain. He would not be in the trenches with him. And some of them players out there do not want to be in the trenches with him. He's a moaner. He moans at players. He doesn't gee him up. He doesn't do what a natural captain should do. And that's lead. And Roy Keane said,
talking about throwing his arms up in the air, moaning. I think Roy Keane might have thought a lot of us out there have forgot what he was like when he was a captain. I mean, I remember him a lot of the time screaming in people's faces, throwing his arms about, referees' faces, the opposition's faces, his own players' faces. Maybe, like you said earlier on, that was in a winning mentality side. There were winners in that side. We haven't got winners in this side. But Bruno Fernandes, for me, is trying his best. And I'll say it again. You take Bruno Fernandes out of this team, it's a lot poorer with him out of it than it is with him in it.
Bruno Fernandes.
It really is. That's just my opinion. Though.
Yeah. Bruno Fernandes might be trying his best, but it's not good enough, is it? We're at the bottom of the...
You can't polish a turd, and some of these players are turds.
But he's not changed. But he's not... What I'm saying to people out there will be saying, he's not changed. He's not improved his leadership skills. He's not bringing these players on with him. He seems to be there running around, dictating, shouting and bawling at all the players. They're not with him. That's the disconnect. Roy's pointing all that out, that his leadership skills aren't there. They faded and haven't been there for quite a while. You know, it's a debate. It's an opinion. Roy's got his opinion. Bruno, for me, apologising and all that shows a weak leadership. That's how I see it. That's how Roy Keane sees it. And I don't think he should be captain for much longer, because if the changes are going to come, changes have to be made in every department, and that's the leadership. And we've not been led. We've only had moments. Bruno Fernandes produces moments. He's gone off the ball, been off the ball for a long time, just now and again. First goal, penalty, first one since April. That's not what the Bruno Fernandes is all about. It's all about getting up there, staying in the box and putting that ball away. And he's not doing it. He's not showing the qualities. And Roy Keane, quite rightly, went right at him, savagely in my opinion, right? But he's correct. Bruno Fernandes needs to be removed. Roy should have said that.
Another player who was seen getting absolutely pelters in the comments last night on your video was Garnacho. Another player in my eyes who's trying to carry the club on the pitch week after week with his work rate. Had a poor game, though, in my opinion, against Chelsea, especially some of the actions that he was doing when other players weren't finding him with the ball, or he was making a mistake, wouldn't put the graft in to go and get the ball back and help his teammates out. And it's not the first time I've really seen that from Garnacho in the last few weeks. So hopefully Amorim, when he does come in, he knocks that out of him, because I think Garnacho is going to be a very, very good player. And what I do like about him, that if he does try something, he won't get disheartened. He'll get back up and he'll keep going and going. And for me, when you're looking across the front four of him, Rashford, Højlund and Bruno, he's our most attacking threat. He's the one who's most likely going to create something or score something. But in recent weeks, he needs to get that chin off his chest, start looking up with players around him. But I think at the moment, is there a bit of leadership there at the moment? There's not really, is there?
No, I don't think it's leadership with Garnacho. I think what it is, he needs something different. He needs a new impetus, a new coach, new ideas in that, and he needs to express himself differently. He's not changed. He keeps doing the same old thing, keeping the ball, not crossing it, wayward shots, everything like that. He's only a young lad, we all know that, but I think he just needs a change of coaching, people around him, and the system to change for him to flourish. I go back to Ryan Giggs. Ryan Giggs was always, when he was a youngster, he was told, keep trying things, keep trying something different, don't worry if you fail and all that. But Garnacho keeps doing the same thing over and over again. So I think with Amorim coming in, he will benefit from a different style of coaching and management behind him. So let's hope it works, because he is a good player, but he is getting very, very frustrating for the fans, and I think for some of his teammates as well.
Yeah, because at his age, he's still 20, still very raw, and in winning teams out there who win week in, week out, they can afford to bring young players in there because they're playing with players who've got that winning mentality. Whereas here at Manchester United, we're actually relying on the youngsters, like your Kobbie Mainoo, your Garnacho, your Ahmad when he does play, your Højlund. We're relying on the youngsters. We're not relying on the older heads who've got the experience in that, because the experienced ones in our team aren't producing the goods week in, week out.
No, because we're so poor. Roy Keane points that out. Roy Keane was adamant, this team is absolute garbage, okay? That's what it is. We're having to rely on youngsters, and that's how poor we are, and that's the reality. And that's what baffles me about yesterday, where people were disappointed with a point against Chelsea, aside what's up there. This is a poor, poor side. And I've said we're going to have ups and downs. Even with Amorim coming in, I think we're going to have more ups and downs, because some players are going to be challenged. And people like Garnacho, okay, the age thing about him has to go away. He's had long enough now, okay? He was slowly introduced. He got a good run last year. He's in the team. People are disappointed when he's not in the team. But he's not changing in what he does. And a lot of what he does, right, flops. That's what's happening at the moment. But it's not just him, it's everyone. And to rely, for Manchester United, to rely on young players tells you how much in the mud we are. That's how bad we are.
Yeah, I think with his form in what you're saying, it's obviously affecting him, because, like we're saying, in title-winning teams, winning mentality teams, he'd be getting brought in for 1 or 2 games, then took out for 1 or 2 or 3 games, and you'd be able to give him that rest, and he can watch games of football on the sidelines, continue the education that way. But we're having to rely on young players. So
you say that.
You can expect, performances not to match the previous week's performance. You can't expect him to perform if they scored 2 goals one week to expect the same levels the week after, because they're still learning the game as well. I know this mentality, if you're old enough, you're good enough, but...
No, but you might be old enough, you might be good enough.
No, if you're good enough, you're old enough.
Right, right, well, watch this. Roy Keane said, and he didn't hold back, these players haven't got the Man United DNA, okay? When you're doing something wrong, okay, you change it up, you do something different than that. And these players, week in, week out, keep doing the same as a group. Yes, there's certain individual performances what are okay. Yesterday, that performance was there to a certain extent, where they grafted and they grinded out a draw. That's not the Man United DNA. And Roy Keane points it out. And that can go to Garnacho as well. He should be improving, vastly improving than what he was 18 months ago. And he hasn't. So the only thing you can turn around for players like Garnacho, Ahmad, Højlund, the midfield player, Mainoo, you're only hoping is that it will change when Amorim comes in, okay? And let's see if they've got the DNA. There's quite a lot of people in this squad who haven't got a DNA. And then you go back to the criticism, and it is bad criticism, okay? Some of these players can't run, but some of these players don't want to run. What Roy Keane should have said, he should have named them players, and that is poor from Roy Keane when he savagely tore Man United apart, and he will continue to do that based on what used to be a Man United, the great sides, compared to what it is now. He should start naming, and so should Gary Neville. Gary Neville's not calling him out. He savaged United yesterday, and many other pundits. Names need to be started calling out instead of driving us mad, right? Trying to guess what he's really saying.
A lot of people savaged Neville as well, didn't they, for these
savaged him.
Terrible. In the game.
I thought it was terrible the way he was commentating yesterday. I thought it was very, very poor. He went too negative on United. didn't even savage the referee on behalf of United. United didn't get a lot. No, the punditry and what's going on now, they're going right in on United. And all these ex-players, ex-legends, pundits, all that, they're all just dreaming back to the old days. And they're not actually talking about reality. And the reality is, going into this game, we was a poor side. And they're not looking at it from that point of view. They're expecting a great Man United performance. How can you expect a great Man United performance? Have you seen one? Have you seen one? No, you haven't. We're fighting relegation. Yeah. We could be if we get beat by Leicester next week.
Yeah.
We could be fighting relegation if we get beat, but people are talking about a great Man United side. We shouldn't be doing this. We shouldn't be doing... Why shouldn't we be doing this? We're rubbish. Yeah. We're simply rubbish. People have to accept that. Going into the game yesterday, I expected United to grind out a result, and I was hoping, and they had to fight for a draw. And to me, that's what they got. I wasn't expecting anything else.
Oh, I want to be honest.
I wasn't expecting anything else. I don't see how anyone can. This club is proper in the mud. Okay, sacking a manager. Okay, captain's not doing the job. Players haven't got the DNA. Players don't want to run. Players can't run. What are you expecting?
So the emergency button has well and truly been pressed then, hasn't it?
It's pressed. This is the lowest, and we could go lower. Right, but we're talking about Manchester United on the pitch as though they're at this level. Yeah. And we're criticising them from a top level, when really we're criticising from the bottom level. And when you get bottom level, you know what you've got. Pure rubbish.
Yeah, I'll go back to what you said earlier on about what you think Roy Keane's opinion is based on what he knows in the dressing room about Bruno Fernandes, which obviously it's just our opinion looking at that. But you'd think that their ears close to the floor, close to that dressing room, where it's only like first or second-hand information, because let's have it right, the world that they're living in, especially on Sky, their own YouTube channels, etc., they will have discussions with people in and around Manchester United. That's a fact.
It's a fact that they're having discussions.
Do you think that's why sometimes they go overboard, though, because they know certain things in their head of what they've been told, or through certain players, etc., or people inside the club?
Well, if you look at Gary Neville, for instance, he went in on United the week building up to Erik Ten Hag's sacking. He knew certain things, what was going on. That's my opinion, okay? Roy Keane knows things because they all chat. They see each other. We know what goes on. We've spoke to people. I've spoke to people. I know this discontent. And if I know this discontent, they all know this discontent. And they're not saying, they're just using savage words for the media, which gives them all the exposure, what they want. That's what they're paid for. That's what they're paid for.
Is that what we're doing?
Savage Man United.
Yeah,
and everyone's doing savaging Man United.
Yeah.
Right? But it's tough. It's
tough right now. It is. Being a Manchester United fan right now, it is tough.
Yeah, yeah.
But at the end of the day...
No.
We can't. Well, can we get any lower?
Of course we can.
Of course we can, but... Let's just hope Ruben Amorim can come in and actually lift this team, and more importantly, lift those fans as well. And hopefully, in the next few weeks when he does take charge, we start seeing something different and this team actually working as a team instead of individuals, and get this shite attitude out the door with some of the players.
But you look at Ruud van Nistelrooy, everyone's going, oh, Ruud's in charge now. Nothing was going to change. Right? I don't see how anything can change when it's the same players. Plus, there's a lot of injuries and all that, right? And I did say, okay, last week, the 3 games, meaning the Chelsea, the Cup game on Thursday, and the Leicester game, I thought, we've got to do well. We can't lose these games, because if we lose these games, we are in deep, deep trouble. Now, come Thursday, that performance, the attacking side of it, has to pick up. The chances what get created have to be put in the net. But can we really expect a change just like that? I don't think so. It's going to be tough. I don't care about the opposition, where they are in the league or whatever they do, okay? Will United improve? I think they'll just be exactly the same as what they were yesterday and the week before. And then when we play Leicester, that's your toughest game. So do not expect miracles going into that game. That's how I see it, because this is, and I'll say it, Roy Keane says it, a poor United side with players what don't even have the DNA of what Manchester United's all about.
We've not discussed it today, but I want to know your thoughts as well. Do you still think Nistelrooy is going to stay when Amorim comes in? Because after the game, he was talking about Amorim's appointment, and he said, I look forward to getting to know him better. He's done well in Portugal, looking forward to keep helping the club forward. This is my main goal.
do not be fooled by Ruud van Nistelrooy's talking about wanting to work with Amorim and everything like that. It's all about contracts. He's the assistant manager. When Amorim comes in, he said it himself last week, he will go back to his contract as assistant manager. That will not happen. Ruud's here. He backs these players. He speaks highly of them. Well, Amorim will come in here and he won't be speaking highly of these players. Okay? So Ruud is only talking, right, in the sense of, I'm the assistant manager when Amorim comes in. That's my contract. They were his words. That's not the words of someone who wants to stay in any capacity to help Manchester United.
I do like what Nistelrooy's been saying over the last couple of weeks about Manchester United.
Oh, yeah.
I believe if there was more Nistelrooys inside the club on the pitch, we'd be in a lot better place. But I do think we need a fresh start on Amorim and his coaching staff. And for me, if Ruud van Nistelrooy was to stay, I think it could be a big distraction in the background if Manchester United weren't picking up good results under Amorim, where it'd be easier just to sack him and then put Nistelrooy in chase, and then it's a washing machine job of rinse, repeat again.
Well, I'm not saying Ruud van Nistelrooy not said good words. You would expect that from Ruud, okay? Ruud's just fighting.
You can tell he genuinely means it as well.
Oh, yeah, of course he does. Yeah, but Ruud's fighting for his position and letting people know, and he's also putting it on Amorim, he's putting it on the club. I'm here. That's my contract. I'm staying. That's my contract for this year and next season.
Don't get me wrong, he could be a part of the problem with Erik Ten Hag as well, with the coaching, because we've not seen an identity for this team for a very long time, to be honest with you. I can't remember a consistent run of performances where it was proper G'd up after the actual Carabao Cup final against Newcastle. But let's hope we get something when Ruben Amorim comes in. Just like to thank you all for getting involved in the chat today. Some great opinions coming in there. If you'd like to help support us, please smash a like on the video. Think about subscribing as well. And we'll be back tomorrow with another live video, so get that notification on. Much appreciated as always, Reds. Thank you.
Thank you.